right, welcome back everyone to Alive and Thriving. This is part 7. I'm really happy to share with you our continuing on our journey to awaken your true human potential by taking responsibility for your personal psychology, lifestyle choices, and holistic health. Claim your sovereign freedom and free your soul as you are guided by natural law and right moral action. So we're going to just jump through this and get to the business at hand. We're talking about beginnings, initiations. And how do we do this? How do we break out of the confines of mind control and rigid, calcified thinking and worldviews? It takes beginning again. And what initiations can come into us in our lives in all sorts of ways, including difficult experiences and kind of come to Jesus moments. And in order to take advantage of these initiatory opportunities, there's a process. And this includes some steps to follow. And this is how we combat the mind control and the rigidities that come from the indoctrination that we've been exposed to throughout our lives. So the first step is to stop lying. And this means stop lying about what's happening in the world, what's happening in yourself. Stop lying to yourself, especially. And we'll talk more about that. We lie to ourselves in many ways with cognitive distortions and thinking errors and choosing ignorance, ignoring facts and information that contradicts what we feel comfortable with believing and what we've always believed as true. So first, we need to stop lying. Secondly, stop dreaming. And what this means, again, is stop making up stories and living in a false reality. Be aware of your cognitive dissonance and stop allowing that dissonance to continue where your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are not in alignment. Number 3, learn how to think. Use the trivium and quadrivium as approaches to seek truth and get closer and closer to what is real and true. Live in the present moment. That is where our power is. That is where we are most likely to find reality, is in the here and now. And activate the physical body, getting out of the head, stopping the overthinking and the over-intellectualization, and activate the physical body. So our goal here is to get out of cults, get out of religions that hold us back, and getting out of any other type of abusive relationship that we're involved in, both in our microcosm or in the macrocosm. And again, let's talk about the stages of deprogramming. The first and most difficult step is to realize that one has been the victim of programming. Once you've recognized that, you are, I think, almost halfway there. Recognize that you are a victim of programming. And this process where we endeavor to stop the lying involves discrediting the figure of authority that we have been lured by. We've been mesmerized by authority figures that have indoctrinated us with certain thoughts and worldviews. So when we start to look at and see the fact that, wait a minute, I've been programmed, and who is this authority that has been giving me these messages? Start to look for aspects of them that are not ideal, that are not good. Most of the figures of authority have abused that authority and continue to abuse it. So we want to see the reality. We don't want to hold people up on a pedestal and idolize them. No idols. So discredit the figure of authority. And then also look at the contradictions, the contradictions and disagreements between ideology and reality. See for what it is. Then there's a breaking point when a person begins to listen to new information, when reality begins to take precedence over the ideology. Then there's self-expression, when an individual begins to open up and voice gripes against that cult of authority, when that person dares to question or challenge in ways that they were unwilling to before. and open up and express yourself rather than just sort of mum's the word, don't rock the boat. Number 5, identification and transference. When the subject begins to identify with the deprogrammers, and starts to think for him or herself. So this is shifting away from identifying with the authority figure and the authority system, and not to just believe what new people say. We certainly don't want to follow anyone. We want to start to think for ourselves. And that's when the real deprogramming happens. And we complete a separation from the old ways, where we no longer identify with, whatever that cult was, whether it was the cult of like, I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat, I'm a licensed whatever. It's where we stop idolizing and identifying with that, and we complete a separation from it, at least mentally, preferably, and ultimately physically, with our time and our location. And then lastly, we identify, challenge, and replace the programming. So this is a very conscious effort to identify and catch the programs, the ideological implants, and to challenge them, challenge and question. So identify, challenge, and replace the programming, which has been embedded into your own nervous system. And now you've challenged it, you've questioned it, you started to recognize that the ideology and the reality do not match. You started to see positives of, people who are challenging those things, and identify a bit with other ways of being. And then you're replacing the programming with a reality-based messaging. And ultimately, love is essential in this equation. We're not wanting to replace one fallacy with another fallacy, or one false programming with another. So when love of self equals love of others, then love guides everything, and we are safe amongst each other. And this is an important subtlety. When love of self equals love of others, and I think this goes both ways. There are folks who love themselves, quote unquote, in a false egoic way, and are self-serving without loving others, and see themselves as better than, or, superior to other people. And the need for them is to recognize that we're all equal, and that we must love others. But also, let's be real, if you don't love others, you really aren't loving yourself. You're not recognizing that it's not, that you have value, because everyone has value. And there's no one that has greater value than another. And so oftentimes the problem is that we do not love ourselves in reality, and that when we actually learn to love ourselves, then we are not going to allow ourselves to be subjected to mind control in the same way, to the agendas of other people who clearly have self-serving interests. Real love for self means that you've accepted yourself, that you've done your work, that you are not being driven by insecurities, self-loathing, shame, but that you truly have an embrace of your own self with compassion and love. And that then allows you to love others in a holistic way. So when we realize we're all equal in the eyes of creation, we see the importance of honoring all living beings. We see that we are all one. In addition to being whole as individuals, we are all interconnected and interdependent as a species, as a humanity. We need each other. Together, in harmony with nature, we can create wonders. Compassion is the awareness of a deep connection between yourself and all creatures. When you recognize the oneness, it opens up your empathy and compassion. A quote by Shams Tabrizi: "The universe is a complete, unique entity. Everything and everyone is bound together with some invisible strings. Do not break anyone's heart. Do not look down on weaker than you. One sorrow at the other side of the world can make the entire world suffer. One's happiness can make the entire world smile." Ultimately, when we deconstruct these false walls around us, the false beliefs that we've been, tricked into believing throughout our life, and we go through this deconstructive process, right? This stripping away of false identities, we're left with a need to regrow and to heal. And where does this healing power come from? There is a natural healing power, and it exists inside you, inside each one of us. There is a natural impetus towards healing, integration, and life itself in all things. Our body, like the earth, regenerates itself. The brain creates new pathways after injury. Cuts heal without us doing anything to make it happen. Our mental and emotional traumas can be healed too. Sometimes we get in the way of our own natural healing. What is our potential for transformation? It's great. It's actually unknown. Joe Dispenza is a cutting-edge leader on understanding, on researching and exploring the potential of the human mind for regeneration and creating happiness. Says a couple of things here that I'll quote. 1, your DNA is a parts list of potentials that are awaiting instructions from you. Your DNA is a parts list of potentials that are awaiting instructions from you, not from anyone else, from you. So spend time contemplating who you want to be. The mere process of contemplating who you want to be begins to change your brain. So this is very exciting. And there are some other fields of research that are so exciting for us to explore, to start to see and even start to imagine new potentials for ourselves as individuals and as people, as humanity. And these fields include epigenetics. It's an understanding neuroplasticity, the cutting edge brain science. When we look at these things, we see an inherent drive for repair. We see that there is something bigger than us. And this helps us to decipher between our personal perceptions, expressions, and manipulations, and the actual occurrences and moral principles. So when we start to tell the difference, when we start to know that this is my thought, and we start to understand the origins of our thoughts, and we question our thoughts, and we question our patterns, and we see how we have imposed different types of behaviors and coping mechanisms to manipulate and manage our world. When we are letting go and becoming stripped of those indoctrinated patterns, we can start to replace our template with a more truth-based actuality and bring forward the moral principles that is the actual foundation of spiritual life and human life. And we start to embrace our diversity. When allowed to prosper in creative brilliance through the expression of free will, along with the guiding principle of love and true care, within the guidelines of natural law, can be expressed as the greatest potential of everyone and unlock a magnificent society. So how do we find your superpowers? We all have a birthright to an unfolding of our gene code, of our soul code, and our blood code, an unfolding that we haven't I would say 99.999% of us have not even touched upon this untapped potential that we have been blocking by getting in our own way. So now our goal is to get out of our own way, to get out of the power structures that limit us as well, and dissolve core negative beliefs and self-defeating scripts and claim our own power to overcome adversity. This takes perseverance and the development of a positive support system. We are a species built towards inner relationships. And it's when we bring our powers together that the true transmutation and transformation and synergy of energies can occur. Healing involves claiming our personal sovereignty and speaking our individual voice amid many other people doing the same. Samuel Adams quotes, "The natural liberty of man is to be free from any superior power on earth, and not to be under the will or legislative authority of man, but only to have the law of nature for his rule." So to understand natural law and to live by the authority of nature or God is essential for us to reach our full potential and to live in true peace and harmony with each other. So what is personal sovereignty? What is true freedom? Sovereign means above rulership or control. It is a state of mind. It is a state of being. The freedom to be you, express yourself, and do what you choose, as long as you are not hurting others. Sovereign means not a subject or a slave. Not a slave. Freedom and sovereignty result from healing both our internal and external trauma bonds. I am willing to heal. I have the courage to heal, and I am ready to become myself. Can you say that with me? I am willing to heal. I have the courage to heal. I am ready to become myself. And I'm ready to heal my childhood trauma. Because to be honest, this is essential to free ourselves to our full, true potential in this present moment. So what is Stockholm Syndrome, or sometimes called trauma bonding? It's an understandable way to survive ongoing abuse. Victims of abuse often develop a strong sense of loyalty towards their abuser, despite the fact that the bond is actually damaging to them. And understanding this helps us to understand how we can heal from complex trauma. Conditions necessary for trauma bonding to occur include to be threatened with and to believe that there is a real danger. Harsh treatment interspersed with very small kindnesses, isolation from other people's perspectives, a belief that there is no escape. So think about people in your life, situations, perhaps these conditions have occurred for you, that you felt threatened with and believe that there's a real danger if you fight against, if you go against the rules, the expectations, that there's some harsh treatment or punishment that occurs for folks who don't comply, and that there are also interspersed some kindnesses, some perks, some bonuses, some little kickbacks, some breadcrumbs, and that we're often isolated. Have you been isolated, separated from, told not to listen to other people's perspectives? And then this general sense of fate, that this is just the way it is. I can't do anything about this. I can't escape. Those are the conditions, the soil in which trauma bonding occurs. It's a traumatic bonding that occurs due to the cyclical nature of abuse and the emotional roller coaster the victim goes through due to the abuse. The alternating phase of reward and punishment creates powerful emotional bonds that are hard to change. This applies not just to one-on-one relationships, but really you can see this, how we have all been trauma bonded with our authorities in life, with our government. So, there's a question here. How do we find equality in such an inequitable world? There's clearly inequities between the haves and the have-nots, the wealthy and the poor, the people in power and those kind of poor folks who are just, worker bees in the world. And that really leads to resignation and apathy among many people. They've just caved in, given in, look to the government to get their breadcrumbs of support so they can survive, and also stand in fear that they're going to get squashed like a bug. Okay. So what is equality under natural law? Clearly equality under man's law doesn't really exist. Even though people may say that the laws are meant to provide equality, but they're not. But what is equality under natural law? Everyone has the same rights, same exact rights. We're all born with them. Okay, rights don't come from people. Rights come from nature. Remember this. No one has any more or less rights than anyone else, including the governor, the state commissioner, the president. Also, since rights are not created by humanity, and since they are the birthright of humanity, gifted to us by the creator of the universe, no human being or group of human beings is actually capable of granting rights to anyone else. Nor is any human being capable of revoking rights from anyone else. Our rights all exist at all times. And as long as we are not hurting other people, that's where our rights end, is in causing harm, incurring violence on another, stealing from another. So again, I have here the equality wheel to remind you of the possibility, to remind you what this actually looks like. What does it mean to be equal? So the equality wheel, non-threatening behavior. People feel safe and comfortable expressing themselves and doing things on their own. Respect, non-judgmental listening, emotional affirmation, valuing opinions, allowing others to speak. Trust and support, supporting a person's goals in life, respecting their right to their own feelings, friends, activities, and opinions. Trusting their judgment to walk where they choose to walk when they want to walk there. Honesty and accountability, accepting responsibility for oneself, acknowledging past use of violence if there has been, making amends, admitting wrongdoings, communicating openly and truthfully, repairing harm, responsible parenting, sharing parental responsibilities with a spouse, with a partner, being a positive, nonviolent role model for children. The government does not have any more rights than a parent does over what you do with your child. So if you want your child to be at home on a particular day, you have the right to have your child at home on that day. The government or a school doesn't have a right to punish you. So having a shared responsibility with the people that you're making decisions with, the people that you're living with, the people you're getting help with, mutually agreeing on a fair distribution of work, making decisions together, economic partnership, making money decisions together. Stealing your money is not mutually beneficial. Taxing you is not a mutually beneficial relationship if you don't have control over where your money goes. And negotiation and fairness, seeking a mutually satisfying resolution to conflict. If you disagree, having a fair way of negotiating and solving problems, accepting change. Sometimes we need to be flexible, be willing to compromise, and yet not under duress or coercion. Your roar of freedom is being called for now. What is your roar of freedom? Are you speaking up? Are you claiming your freedom? A quote by Osho: "The greatest fear in the world is the opinions of others. And the moment you are unafraid of the crowd, you are no longer a sheep and you become a lion. A great roar arises in your heart, the roar of freedom." Do you hear your roar of freedom? Strive for personal alignment of mind, body, and spirit. Alignment of your thoughts, feelings, and actions. So what are values? It's important that we live with a code of ethics, that we establish and are clear about our value as a human being and what's valuable in the world, what is important to us. And I distinguish and differentiate between the core moral principles that are universal and unchanging among people, and values which can be variable between people. But regardless, we need a code. During chaotic times in particular, we need a code to follow. Do no harm. The non-aggression principle is at the foundation of our universal code. Care about others and don't hurt others. The right of self-defense is another important and essential foundational code. So think about this. Okay, the idea here is that there is a code which unifies people, and that this code is what creates some sense of order in our lives and allows us to express our free will and our creative choices freely. And the foundation of this code is that we put principles first. The code comes first. We will not harm others, and we will defend ourselves if violence is imposed against us. Our code of ethics, natural law, is honesty. Refrain from lying, cheating, stealing, trespassing, murdering, assaulting, raping, coercing, lying. Okay, we've gone through these basic rights, that we have a right to be free of those things. Our code of ethics is to live in such a way that we are not causing harm and imposing wrongdoings on others. So this brings us to the 42 ideals of Mott, the divine principles of Mott. And these are written in two ways. One is in the positive, and the other is in the apophatic method of what it's not. Okay. So if anyone can say those things in honesty, then your soul is as light as feather. And this is where we strive to go. Shouldn't we all? And I'm saying, yes, we should all strive towards right action if we care about life and we want a good life. Now, I invite all of you, everyone listening to this, to write your own ideals, write your values. Natural law applied. We have to take the principles to real life living in every day. And those principles of Ma'at help us to bring it down into concrete terms. And instead, we're not going to be like this boy here who says, he's probably just got in trouble or something. And he says to his parents, like, how am I supposed to think about consequences before they happen? Well, isn't that the lesson that we're trying to teach all children to grow up, to think ahead to the consequences of their actions? Isn't that essential, foundational to growing up? So we want to think about the real life examples of living in congruence with natural law, real life cause and effect. All our actions have consequences, although there is often a delay between the cause and the effect. There is always an effect. The effect may not be visible to us, but it may be visible to another person. If you eat too much sugar, over time, you'll gain weight or get diabetes, or your teeth may rot. If you spend too much money, you'll later come up short for something else that you want. If you lie or cheat, you will lose trust of the people you're lying to. If you tolerate abuse, you're likely to get more abuse. If you aggress against another, the other has the right to defend himself against you. If I go and slap you in the face, you have every right to slap me back. So take some moments and think about other causes and effects in our life. If I don't show up to work, I'll likely get fired. If I act immorally and hurt someone else, then someone has a right to defend against what I do. So what is the difference between force versus violence? Defending yourself against an initiator of violence is a use of force, and you have that right. You have the right to use force to defend yourself. Initiating violence against someone else is a wrong, and that's not a right. Someone initiates violence against you, so you can defend yourself with force. So force is the capacity to do work or cause physical change. It involves energy, strength, and active power. Force is an action which is in harmony with morality and natural law because it does not violate the rights of others. Force is an action which one always possesses the right to take, including defending oneself against violence. Violence, on the other hand, is the immoral use of physical power to coerce, compel, or restrain. Violence is the initiation of coercive action, which is in opposition to morality and natural law because it involves the violation of others' rights. Violence is an action which one never possesses the right to take. And we're called to use our conscience. Conscience is the knowledge of the difference between right and wrong behavior. Conscience is not the behavior itself. The exercise of conscience is behavior. So when I'm exercising my conscience, I am acting rightly. I am in alignment with the positive aspects of natural law. Conscience is not the desire or the intention to do the right thing. This misconception causes many people to believe that they themselves or others have conscience when they do not. Someone can have all the desire or intent in the world to do the right thing, but if they do not have the knowledge to do so, they can never succeed in actually doing what is right. To operate in good conscience, one must have proper knowledge and then act on that knowledge. It is up to you. It is up to you and no one else to do the right thing. It is up to you and no one else to choose your own path. The consequences of your choices fall. They fall upon you. If you commit violence, you are responsible for that. If you tolerate violence upon yourself or another person, you are responsible for the consequence of allowing. Even if you ignore or deny the cause, there will be an effect. It happens whether you want it to or not. And there is always a consequence. So freedom is not selfish because we care about not only ourselves, but everyone and everyone's freedom. And that we care about agape, love, which is beyond us, the highest form of love, love for God and God's love for man, nature's love. A slide from Lawrence or Mitch Wasson. This is a slide that came from one of his presentations about care. Care is the second dynamic we must embody to be able to manifest the conditions we wish to see in the world. Without care, it does not matter how much knowledge or courage an individual has. To care is to live in alignment with natural law and to serve truth. Care is also the driving force which governs what our energy is being generated towards. If we are in possession of knowledge but do not care enough to apply it to our own lives and share it with others, then what good is the knowledge? Likewise, if we have the courage to take action, let our voices be heard and help ourselves and others, but do not care to do so, then what good is our courage? We must embody care to be able to embody both knowledge or truth and courage, which is action. Direct your free will to express your individuality and your gifts. Your life and your voice are needed here on earth. These are gifts waiting to be offered. We each have a unique vibrational signature. There are receivers waiting who are needing and are resonant to each of our unique gifts. Each of our unique voices and offerings has someone who will light up when they hear it and receive it. Each of us was born with a unique personality, a unique voice, and our own tapestry of talents and potentials, just like the snowflake. To identify and express the gifts we were born with is a marvelous adventure. Someone in the world needs what we're offering. It is sad and a loss for someone somewhere if we do not share our gifts back into the world. Realizing this eliminates the need for competition and eliminates a fear of lack. There is enough to go around. There is an abundance available for each one of us. While you clearly have the free will not to follow these suggestions, I believe that sharing your voice and your message will add to your happiness and will also help the world. So inventory your personal strengths, skills, and talents. Please write them down. Take some time and think about the things you have to offer the world. Are you kind, meticulous, open-minded, adventurous, loyal, funny, observant, level-headed, imaginative, caring? There's so many qualities that you have as a human being that are needed, that will assist other people. And then there's also a lot of very concrete skills and talents that are needed in this world. And now ask yourself, what is truly important? What has true intrinsic value? And how does the truth fit in to what is important? Did you know, when it comes down to it, the only knowledge that really matters is how to purify water, how to grow your own food, how to cook, how to build, and how to love. And funnily enough, we're not taught any of these in school. I don't know who said that, but I want you to think about what we really need for happiness isn't a whole lot. If we have proper food and water and shelter and love and people around us, what more do we really need? So along this way, we've been talking a lot about self-reflection and self-awareness. And so I can't emphasize enough how important it is to cultivate your self-knowledge. And there's a lot of kind of fun and interesting inventories, personality inventories that you can play around with that will shine some light on who you are and what your tendencies are. You know, are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? Do you predominantly use your five senses or your intuition? You know, are you a procrastinator and, you know, kind of flexible with time, or are you very meticulous and methodical and work with deadlines? So here, the Myers-Briggs is an example here of it's very popular kind of personality inventory. I'm not claiming that it's like the best one on earth or anything, or that's the end all be all, but it certainly brought some insight to my own self, and it's fun. And astrology is also a tool for self-discovery. It's not about, you know, looking into the future. It's about really understanding yourself. It's part of our correspondence to the all that is. And you can go very deep. You could spend a lifetime studying astrology, the Western or Eastern model. So, you know, what makes you tick? Learn about your individual makeup, your motivations, your personality features. Know thyself. The words from the Delphi Oracle say, heed these words, you who wish to probe the depths of nature. If you do not find within yourself that which you seek, neither will you find it outside. In you is hidden the treasure of treasures. Know thyself, and you will know the universe and the gods. Our search for a state of being. What is it that you really want? Do you want stuff? I would say no. I would say that what you're really after is a state of being, a mental, emotional mind state. When you grasp for short-term pleasure, what feelings are you really seeking? What are the underlying needs that you yearn to fill? What brings you true joy? What creates real peace? What naturally gives you energy? What lights you up? What gives you a sense of meaning, purpose, or true calling? What gives your life value? What makes you feel useful? Discover your unique formula for thriving. Buy yourself a notebook, look back at these questions, and do some journaling. There is no help for you outside of yourself. You are the creator of the universe. Like the silkworm, you have built a cocoon around yourself. Burst your own cocoon and come out as the beautiful butterfly, as the free soul. Then alone you will see the truth. A quote by Swami Vivekananda. So here's the wheel of change, or it's really more like a spiral. And we can use this model to explore where we are at in situations in our life that are calling us to make a change. There are 7 aspects to this wheel, and the first is pre-contemplation, or I don't know there's a problem. We're just living life, moving along, having fun, not aware that there's any problem in anything I'm doing. But then some things start to accumulate. Maybe you have a health problem, or there's more arguments with your loved ones, or you're seeing contradictions and seeing things that just aren't right, and you start to contemplate. And this is the contemplation phase. And this is where you might start thinking, I'm starting to see a problem. Consequences are accumulating. I am contemplating the problems in my life and looking at possible changes and potential decisions and consequences of those decisions. I start to see myself as an agent of change, starting to consider that change is called for, that certain behaviors or lifestyle choices or worldviews are causing problems. And that leads us to making a decision. I see the need for change and I choose a direction. And once that direction is chosen, there's planning and preparation. This is getting yourself ready. If you decide to leave a job or leave a relationship, you may take a large amount of time contemplating before you make that decision. And then you may take some time to do some planning and preparation. And then take action, follow through on the plan, move forward, make steps of actual change. And after that initial action is taken, and then you create new habits, there's a maintenance phase where these new habits become your new routine. They become regular. Now, often after making changes, problems pop up again, and we would call this a relapse. And this is natural with most changes, where we make changes, but we're not all the way there, or we slide, we get lazy. And this is where we learn from slips and setbacks. Rather than see them as failures, we say, here's something for me to learn about myself and about this situation so that I can make another choice that is even better. And we can start this cycle over, and it can go round and round. There's really no end to growth. It is like a spiral that keeps spinning and either brings us outwards in broadening or inwards and focusing. Another skill we need is intention and goal setting strategies. We want to dream big, set goals, and take action. When you set intentions, write them down. There is a power of taking your thoughts and putting them on paper. I recommend writing them down with pen and paper, ideally, and do it now. Every day, in fact, create a routine of setting intentions and writing them down. You can work with the very short term as well as the middle and long-term ranges of time. Create lists, things that you want to have, do, be, or share. Be specific. State the accomplishment in the positive present tense, such as I'm confident and articulate when talking to others. So if you want to improve a social skill, identify what that is, state it in a positive and present tense. Imagine each goal completed, imagining what it would be like using all of your senses. What does it smell like, taste like, feel like, look like, sound like? And with each goal, note a time frame for its accomplishment. Give yourself a deadline. Give yourself a structure with time. Connect with each goal emotionally. Imagine what it feels like to have that goal achieved. What is the state of mind and the emotional state that will involve? And also write down the why. Why is this goal important to you? I've concluded that we all need a why for the things that we do. And we need to be clear on why we want something and why it's important to achieve. Without the why, when things get rough, we're not going to have the fortitude to stick to it unless we're really clear about that. It's so compelling to go back to old habits and to sort of follow the same ruts in the road. We're creating new roads, new pathways in our lives and in our nervous system. And so we need to know why. What is motivating us? Be sure to include goals around health, your diet, nutrition, your lifestyle pace and patterns, your ways of being, your best day ever, your abundance, your work, your livelihood, your goals around how you want to be a friend, how you want to be in relationship with the people who are important to you. It's a very important process to achieve the things that we set out to do in our life and to feel purposeful, is setting intention and goal setting strategies. This list I borrowed from David Avocado Wolf. Again, write things down, create a routine every day to do some journaling, and take note your wins, note all the small steps that you've accomplished, any movement in the direction of your goal, write it down, note the win. The words you use, both quietly inside your head and the words you say out loud, are important. The word is our wand. The word has power. From a website, mybeautifulwords.com, The Magic of Words. She was fascinated with words. To her, words were things of beauty, each like a magical powder or potion that could be combined with other words to create powerful spells. A quote by Dean Koontz. The mind is causality. Words have a deep and often hidden power. Be mindful and selective in your use of words. Keep your words consistent with your goals and intentions. Speak about yourself as having become the person you strive to be. Be kind to yourself. We want to marry our intention with our will. Think of your left hand as intention and your right hand as your willpower. Aligning our personal will and divine will, being in the flow. The real law of attraction is aligning thought, feeling, and action, aligning the left with the right, having not just intention, but also will to take action. If we are using our willpower to do things that are not consistent with our sincere intentions, our goals, or true purpose, then you will have strain and unwanted consequences and setbacks. The grains in the shell will rub you in the direction of creating a pearl. Will you respond to the friction and heed the call to growth? Where are you out of alignment within yourself? Where are you out of alignment between your personal will and divine will? Where are you out of alignment with your intention and your action? Be honest with yourself. So use your willpower. After contemplation, make a decision. Decide what's right using the trivium in combination with your intuition, inner knowing, and self-knowledge. Willpower is the force which moves you from inaction to action. Make plans and prepare. Then move. Take that action. Move in the direction of your intention. And the earth, the world, will move with you. Now, willpower partners with courage. And it's the courage that we must activate to make the changes that we need in our life for the betterment of ourselves, our children, our partnerships, our work. If we're to achieve anything, the willpower is essential, and it's activated by our courage. Thank you for joining me for part 7 of Alive and Thriving. I look forward to coming back in part 8. And in part 8, we're going to talk about finding your North Star. And we'll continue to talk about the skills and the tools that are available to you to make transformation in your own life. Thank you.